Yes,
Good evening and a very warm welcome to one and all present here for the expert lecture on wireless sensor networks being organized by International Affairs Cell and the Department of Electronics Engineering of J.C. Bose University of Science and Technology, YMCA Faridabad. Today, we are honored to have among us Dr. Korhan Sangiz as an eminent speaker. To begin with, let us invoke the blessings of God by lighting the lamp of knowledge and wisdom.
कुरुत्वं कल्याणम् आरोग्यं धनसम्पदः शुभं कुरुत्वं कल्याणम् आरोग्यं धनसम्पदः शत्रुबुद्धिविनाशाय दीपज्योतिर्नमोऽस्तु ते दीपज्योतिर्नमोऽस्तु ते शुभं कुरुत्वं कल्याणम् आरोग्यं धनसम्पदः शुभं कुरुत्वं कल्याणम् आरोग्यं धनसम्पदः
Firstly, I would like to take this opportunity to express our gratitude to our Honorable Vice Chancellor Sir Professor Dinesh Kumar, JC Bose University of Science of Technology, YMCA Faridabad, who could not join us today but has always been a driving force behind such initiatives. Now, I would like to express our gratitude to our expert speaker for today, Mr. Korhan Sangis. Now, I would like to express our gratitude to our respected registrars, Dr. S.K. Garg, and our chairman, Department of Electronics Engineering, Professor Neelam Turk, and all the participants to this session. We welcome you all. Now, I would like to invite the Director of International Affairs Cell, Dr. Shilpa Sethi, for a welcome note. Over to you, ma'am.
thank you, Taruna. Good evening and welcome in the expert lecture on wireless sensor network jointly organized by International Affairs Cell and Department of Electronics Engineering, JC Bose University of Science and Technology, YMCA Faridabad. Firstly, I heartily welcome our eminent speaker, Dr. Koran Sengiz from Trakya University, Turkey. Sir, it's indeed an honor to have you among us. We are quite sure that your expert talk on wireless sensor network will go a long way in the mind of our students and researchers and will benefit them in their career growth. I also welcome Vardi Registrar, Dr. Sunil Garg, sir, and Chairperson, Department of Electronics Engineering, Professor Neelam Turk, under whom guidance the talk is being conducted. I also welcome Chairperson, Computer Engineering Department, Dr. Komal Kumar Bhatia, for gracing the occasion with their presence. I welcome Program Coordinator, who extended great efforts in extending this session. Finally, I welcome all participants and wish for an absorbing session. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Now, I take privilege to invite Dr. S.K. Garg for his words of wisdom. Over to you, sir.
I'm audible, madam.
Yes,
I'm
sir, you are
audible.
audible. Yes, sir, you
Okay,
are audible.
okay. Good evening to everyone. On behalf of JC Bose University of Science and Technology, YMCA Faridabad, I welcome you all to this expert lecture being organized by International Affairs Cell of the University. It's really a good step by International Cell to conduct such expert lectures to apprise the student of latest development at global level, ultimately helping them in their future endeavors. The lecture on wireless sensor network being delivered by Dr. Koran Cengiz, Assistant Professor, Department of Electronics Engineering, Turkey University, Turkey, will definitely help our student to understand the latest development in the area of wireless sensor network, which is one of the latest and important area in the field of electronics and networking. I welcome Dr. Quran with the hope that this lecture of his will help our student to use this newfound knowledge in their future endeavors. Thanks to all.
Thank you, sir, for your words of wisdom. Now, I would like to introduce our respected speaker, Dr. Korhan Sangiz. He's an assistant professor in Department of Electronics Engineering, Takya University, Turkey. Sir is the editor of AEU, International Journal of Electronics and Communications. Elsewhere, Associate Director, IET Electronics, Letters, Senior Member IEEE. His research interest includes wireless sensor networks, indoor positioning systems, routing protocols, MAC protocols, big data, machine learning, deep learning, wireless communications, 5G systems, multi-rate signal processing, power electronics. He has published more than 25 research papers in SCI, SCIE, ESCI, and Scopus Index journals. Sir has also published more than 25 research papers in international and national conferences. He has 9 books and 3 book chapters to his credit as well. Sir has been awarded with the Best Paper and Presentation Awards too. He has given regularly expert talks on the area of his interest in prestigious conferences. We keenly look forward to your talk, sir. Over to you, Mr. Korhan Sangiz.
Hello, can you hear me and is it visible?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you for your invitation. I'm very happy to be here, and today we will talk about wireless sensor networks and novel aspects and future directions about wireless sensor networks, especially in network layer. Okay, can I share my screen and can we start? Are we ready to start?
Yes, sir.
You are a co-host.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. I'm sharing right now. Is it visible?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Your
yes, it is
screen is
Okay.
visible.
Okay, thank you. Now, today we will talk about especially routing protocols, novel routing protocols for wireless sensor networks. In my PhD and also after my PhD, we have designed 2 novel routing protocols for wireless sensor networks. One of them is LEFCA, Low Energy Fixed Clustering Algorithm, and the second one is MALTOP, Low Energy Fixed Clustering Algorithm. Today, first, we will talk about them, and then also I will give you some open research problems in the field of wireless sensor networks and also some future aspects. Let's start with the motivation. We know that wireless sensor networks are used in numerous fields such as disaster relief, target tracking, environmental control, smart cities, and healthcare. Especially nowadays, in recent years, in healthcare applications, we use frequently wireless sensor networks, also in body area networks and some IoT, Internet of Things based solutions. And in wireless sensor network, to transmit the information to the remote base station, in literature, we have 3 main approaches: direct transmission, multi-op routing, and clustering. In direct transmission, sensor nodes transmit the collected or measured information to the remote base station individually. In multi-op routing, some sensor nodes are used as relay nodes or gateway nodes. And finally, in clustering, there are some cluster formations, and also there are some cluster heads which are responsible to collect information from the sensor nodes and then transmit this information to the remote base stations. Our protocols, LEFCA and the Maltop-LEFCA protocols, are clustering protocols. In addition, Maltop-LEFCA has Maltop routing nature. I will explain in details in the following slides. So we need to focus on especially clustering protocols and cluster topologies. In clustering protocols in wireless sensor networks, there are some problems. Which are they? Especially increase in energy consumption, decrease in network lifetime, and additional network overhead. Our proposed LEFCA protocol tries to solve these problems by using fixed clustering and also changing the cluster head election process of the existing protocols and algorithms. So, as a related work, we should start with Leech, because Leech is the most known and fundamental routing protocol for wireless sensor network. And it has two main phases, setup phase and the steady state phase. In the setup phase, the cluster head election, cluster head advertisement, and cluster formation processes occur. And in the steady state phase, the measured information is transmitted to the base station by using the cluster heads. And there are a lot of extensions to the Leech protocol in the literature. And these extended algorithms and protocols try to change cluster head selection mechanism of Leech, determining cluster heads according to the residual energy and also using fixed clustering. In here, in our LEFCA, we used these three approaches. And in addition, we added some novelties to the existing routing protocols. Also, I will explain in the following slides. There are a lot of related works. When you look at the literature, you can find thousands of routing protocols for wireless sensor networks, extensions to Leech especially. But for us, LeechF is valuable because it has also fixed clustering nature, and also our LEFCA protocol has fixed clustering nature. We will see again in the following slides the fixed clustering nature of our LEFCA protocol, and also ModLeech is another famous routing protocol, and the EEC also another famous protocol, and stable election protocol, SEP protocol, is another most known protocols. These are fundamental routing protocols in wireless sensor networks, and also there are a lot of extensions. Now, let's see the LEFCA in details now. Our LEFCA aims to use fixed clustering and cluster head selection via base station approaches together. It has intelligent, smart cluster head determination mechanism, which tries to determine the nodes that are almost at the center of their associated clusters at the beginning of the algorithm, instead of determining them randomly. And also it has a threshold-based cluster head changing mechanism, and this part is a novel part of LEFCA. This idea is not proposed in any of the existing algorithms. Especially the third one is dangerous, because in LEFCA, we aim to abuse the energies of the cluster heads, in general, the nodes. So when any cluster head becomes out of battery, then you can lose whole network connection, and you cannot collect any information from that part of the network. So you should be careful while determining the threshold value. In addition, using intelligent cluster head determination at the beginning of the LEFCA, the first formation stage provided us approximately 10% additional energy savings when we compared it with random selection. In general, almost all protocols use random clustered selections and random cluster formations, especially Leech has random cluster formation and cluster selection. So intelligent clustered determination is also a contribution to the literature, but in some protocols, we can see there are some intelligent solutions. And also we have here some open research problems. I will also explain them in the conclusion part. So our LEFCA has some same procedures with Leech and other protocols. It has again setup phase and the steady state phase. In the setup phase, first, we determine the cluster heads by an intelligent selection that are almost at the center of the nodes become cluster heads at the beginning, and then our cluster heads forms the clusters, and in the steady state phase, the measurements transmitted to the base station. Okay, so in the setup phase, we have two messages in the network, in the wireless propagation model: advertisement message and join request message. The advertisement messages are broadcasted by cluster heads, and cluster heads say that I'm cluster head. And then other sensor nodes, normal nodes, members, transmit to the wireless channel as join request messages. And in join request messages, after the join request messages, they join to the nearest cluster heads. And then the cluster formation completed. And after this joining process completed, in each cluster head is responsible to broadcast the TDMA schedule, TDMA frame. For example, we have 10 normal members and one cluster head. Our cluster head provides TDMA frame to the members, and in each time slot, our members transmit measurement to the associated cluster head, and then in the final time slot, our cluster head transmits the measurement to the remote base station in a single message. Okay, so and the most crucial, most important part of LEFCA protocol is cluster head change decision part. For each round, let's describe your round first. In a round, our sensor nodes first make measurements from the environment. For example, they are making temperature measurements, and then transmit these measurements to the associated cluster heads. And after that, our cluster heads combine these measurements into a single message, single packet, and then transmits this packet to the remote base station. These all processes correspond to one round. And in the second round, same procedures are done by members and cluster heads. And for each round, we need to check the remaining energy of each cluster head in the LEFCA network. And we have a predetermined threshold value. And if our remaining energy, if any of cluster heads remaining energy becomes below the threshold value, it will be changed. But if it is higher than the threshold value, it continues to act as a cluster head. And for example, let's think that for cluster 5, the remaining energy of our cluster head is below the threshold value. Then from the alive members, from the members in the cluster, this selection can be made in 3 ways. We can select it randomly from the alive members. We can select the node which has the maximum energy. And also we can select the node which is closest to the existing cluster head. And in original LEFCA, we used random selection, but also other approaches generated us additional publications in several IEEE conferences and other publications. So the determination of threshold value also very important, because at the beginning, as I said, that you need to provide full network connectivity. For example, you are making critical measurements, for example, fire measurements, earthquake measurements. Also, maybe you can apply LEFCA into body area network, healthcare measurements. So therefore, you should collect information in each measurement duration, measurement interval. For example, you are taking measurements in each hour, in each 10 minutes, for example. So you need to collect always information from the network, from the body parts, or from the field, from the land, from the forest. So therefore, you should provide full network connectivity in critical applications. So to provide full network connectivity, we should be very careful while determining the suitable threshold value for LEFCA network. So to make this determination, to make this decision, we need to make some derivations, mathematical calculations. So from this equation, we can find the proper threshold value. This equation shows us the energy dissipation of a cluster head while transmitting packet to the remote base station. And this term is very significant for us. This term shows the distance to the base station. And in all routing protocols, in all protocols in wireless sensor network, the researchers try to decrease this distance to provide decrease in the energy dissipation and to increase the lifetime of the sensor network. And for our calculations and for our performance metrics and our parameters, there is a critical value for this distance value. It is 87 meters. In our network, we have 100 meter times a square field, and we have 100 sensor nodes which were distributed, deployed randomly in the environment, and each sensor node has 2 joules initial energy at the beginning, and all sensors are identical. So for these cases, our critical value is 87 meters, the distance value, and it is called as crossover distance in the literature. And if the distance of a node is higher than 87 meters, then it will lose its energy according to the 4th power of that distance. But if the distance is lower than 87 meters, then this term becomes d square. So by using clustering, we are trying to have distances lower than crossover distance, and therefore we are trying to improve energy efficiency of the network. And to find the suitable threshold value and to provide assurance in network connectivity, we should consider the worst case, okay? So as a worst case, we thought that in this field, we have only one cluster head and other 99 nodes are sensor nodes. And just only one cluster is formed, and the remotest node to the base station, for example, it is in the origin, is cluster head. So for this case, for a one round, how much energy our cluster head will consume? We try to calculate that value. And according to our calculations, we obtained that this value is approximately 0.005 joules. So then, as I said before, at the beginning, we are trying to abuse the energies of the cluster heads to provide lifetime improvement in the network. So we decided to use very low threshold values, but to assure the network connectivity, we decided that this value can be 0.05 joule in LEFCA network. So for our LEFCA network, the determined threshold value is 0.05 joule, okay? When we have 2 joules initial energy at the beginning of the network. But this value can be changed. There is no problem for LEFCA network. It can be increased, but you cannot decrease because you should provide network connectivity. But it can be increased. There is no problem. For different applications, it can be dynamic also, and it can be determined randomly also. Are all can be done. They can be done. There is no problem. But here, especially when we increase too much, and for example, when we remove the threshold value from the LEFCA network, our LEFCA protocol will behave like leech and leech-based protocols. So our novelty is in the abusement of the cluster head, and therefore we need to use lower threshold values. In addition, in LEFCA network, especially, maybe we can face to first not that problem in the literature for lifetime metrics, because we are abusing the cluster head nodes, and the remote cluster heads can be out of battery earlier than the other protocols. But when we define the network lifetime, that all nodes become out of battery in the network, then our LEFCA provides significant energy savings. We will see in the simulation and also analyze results. And here also in leech network, the cluster head selections and cluster formations are done by using a probabilistic mechanism. And for some rounds, because of this probabilistic mechanism, leech network does not generate any cluster heads and does not form clusters. So therefore, for that round, you cannot collect any information from network. But in LEFCA network, for each round, there are clusters, there are determined cluster heads. For each measurement, you can collect information and then transmit to the base station. It is guaranteed. So especially for healthcare applications, earthquake measurements, fire measurements, LEFCA is the best candidate. But for mobile applications, LEFCA is not suitable because it has fixed clustering nature, and when our nodes become mobile, we will have some problems in Lefka network, and also how can we solve these problems is an open research issue for us nowadays. And let's talk about some about the Maltop Lefka. Maltop Lefka is also designed by us, by me, and also my supervisor in our PhD, and also we have made some extensions to it, and finally we have published in IEEE Access Journal. In Maltop Lefka, it has same procedures at the beginning with Lefka. Again, it has intelligent cluster selection, it has fixed clustering natures, it has threshold-based cluster head selection. Again, it tries to abuse the cluster heads, but also there are some novelties. Let me summarize you in one slide. Now here, for example, if we use original Lefka, for example, we have 4 clusters and remote base station. In original Lefka, as you see at the beginning, approximately the center nodes were selected as cluster heads and to collect measurements from the normal nodes, normal members, and then transmit these measurements to the base station. So, for example, for cluster 1, these nodes are making measurements and then transmit these measurements to the cluster head, and cluster head 5 transmits this measurement with a single message to the remote base station. And also 11, 15, and 20 make the same things. But in Maltop Lefka, instead of transmitting the information directly to the base station, the remote cluster heads uses neighbor cluster heads as relay nodes, as gateway nodes. For example, here 5 does not transmit directly to the base station. It transmits the packet to the 11, and then 11 transmits the information of cluster 1 and cluster 2 to the 20, and also 20 receives information from the 15, and finally 20 is responsible to transmit whole information with a single message to the remote base station. Maltop Lefka approximately provided us 10% additional energy savings when it is compared with Lefka. But here, there may be some problems, especially on node 20. There is a huge network load, and also here, node 20 can consume large amount of energy while transmitting messages, because it will also consume energy for receiving messages from whole network. So how can we solve these problems is also open problems for us, and we can collaborate with new PhD students, Master of Science students, and also postdoc researchers in this problem. Okay, so let us see now the simulation results. We have simulated, we have conducted our simulations in MATLAB, and this result is shows us the improvement when we use intelligent cluster heads at the beginning of Lefka network. As you see, as I said before at the beginning, intelligent cluster head selection at the beginning of the Lefka approximately provides us 10% additional energy savings. So we have decided to use intelligent cluster head selection at the beginning of Lefka network. In addition, For intelligent cluster head selection, maybe some machine learning clustering approaches or some deep learning solutions can be applied to improve the selection, to make the selection better. So also this is another open problem for us. And this figure shows the impact of the threshold value. As you see, when we increase the threshold value, our graph goes to left side and it starts to behave like leech, because in leech protocol, there is no threshold value. And for each round, leech determines new cluster formations and also new cluster heads randomly. So therefore, when we remove the threshold value, in other words, when we increase the threshold value, our protocol will behave like leech. Okay. And also we obtained the energy map of the network. For example, this is a snapshot from Lefka and leech protocols. As you see, in leech protocols, approximately all nodes are black or near to black. Black nodes for us here corresponds to dead nodes. In other words, they don't have any energy. They are out of battery. They cannot measure and they cannot transmit anything. And as you see, we can have some problems collecting information from some parts of the network. For example, from this part, we cannot collect any information. Let you think that this protocol is used for fire measurement, and for each half hour, you are collecting information from the forest. And if you cannot collect information from this region, and if there is a fire, what will happen? In 30 minutes, in a forest, fire can cause to huge problems, critical problems for animals, for humans. But in Lefka network, we can collect information from all parts of the network properly. Our Lefka network provides full network connectivity, and it is very useful, as I said before. And when we go to next 1000 rounds, there is no leech here. The all nodes are dead in leech network, but in Lefka network, as you see, you can still collect information. And also in Lefka network, for example, for the following rounds, this cluster will be out of battery, but you can track it properly, because, for example, in Lefka network, you have 10 clusters. It means that for each round, you will receive 10 packets. Okay, it's very basic. You will receive 10 packets. For example, you go to the 5000 round, and this cluster became out of battery. After 5000, you will start to receive 9 packets. 9 packets. It will have linear nature, and it will be very easy to track the unmeasurable parts of the network. And so you can generate some solutions. For example, you can put additional new sensors to that field of the measurement area. Maybe you can put additional mobile sensors. You can have some solutions, but here it is chaotic. You cannot do anything because you don't know which nodes are that. And this is also very random nature. And for some rounds, there is no cluster formation because of the probabilistic nature, we have obtained those results. For some rounds, there is no cluster formation, there is no cluster head, so you cannot collect anything from the network. You think that there is a fire and you don't know. But in LEFCA network, there is no problem. You always know which cluster is out of battery, which node is out of battery. All things are linear. You can track it properly, and you can make some additional solutions when an emergency occurs, and it has robust nature, okay? So, for example, this figure shows us the remaining energy of the total number of nodes. As you see, they are started with 200 joules because each node has 2 joules and we have 100 nodes. And as you see, our LEFCA has the best performance, and in addition, it has robust nature. It is nonlinear energy graph, but you can track the energies of the nodes directly and easily. And also, this figure shows us the number of alive nodes. And from this graph, again, it is approximately linear nature. But as you see, the other protocols, there are non-linearities. So it is hard to track the number of alive nodes, which nodes were that, but in LEFCA, it is very easy to track, to monitor. So you can immediately generate new solutions when you have any emergency situation. And this table shows the network lifetime results of LEFCA and other protocols. How can we obtain this table? We made random generation for sensor network, randomly distributed nodes, and in each iteration. And for the same distribution, we applied all protocols, and then we saved their lifetime results in terms of rounds. And then we made 100 iterations, and in each iteration, we generated the network new randomly again, and we collected average lifetime results. And from the average lifetime results, as you see, LEFCA has best performance. And this figure shows us the total data transmitted to the base station. In literature, in some studies, you can see this as throughput, but we cannot define it as throughput because throughput shows us the useful amount of useful data transmitted to the receiver or the base station. But here, there is no data because we are studying in network layer, the upper layer. So we don't be interested the content of the data. We are just following the packets, number of packets. So these figures shows us the number of packets transmitted to the base station. And as you see, LEFCA has cumulative nature. For each round, it increases, and it has exponential increase, and it has very good improvements when we compare to other protocols. LeChef is approximately better than other ones because it has also fixed clustering nature, and in each cluster, in each round also, it has fixed number of clusters. Therefore, it has good performance. But how can we have better results than LeChef? Because we used threshold-based cluster selection and abusement, and this novelty provided us this improvement, okay? And for different node densities also, we have obtained additional results. What will happen when we decrease the number of nodes? What will happen when we increase the number of nodes? And here, as you see, and also what will happen when we put the base station in the sensor field at the middle of the sensor field, what will happen? And we, as expected, the lifetimes of all protocols were increased. And these are also comparisons with Lefka and Maltop-Lefka. As a summary, as I said before, our Maltop-Lefka has provided approximately 10% additional energy savings when it is compared with Lefka. Now, as a conclusion, today we have talked about two novel routing protocols for wireless sensor networks. One of them is Lefka, and the other one is its extended, improved version, Maltop-Lefka. Lefka has fixed clustering nature. It has threshold-based cluster head selection mechanism, and it aims to abuse the energies of the cluster heads to provide energy efficiency in wireless sensor networks. It is suitable candidate for especially critical applications such as disaster relief, earthquake, fire measurements, and healthcare applications. Maltop-Lefka is an extension to Lefka protocol. It has clustering nature, and in addition to it, it has Maltop routing. It is a combination of clustering and Maltop routing. It uses neighbor cluster heads as relay nodes while transmitting information to the remote base station. And approximately it has 10% additional energy savings when it is compared with Lefka. So thank you for listening. Now we can make some, I can take some questions. We can discuss about them. Okay.
Thank you so much, sir, for your kind words and in illuminating our students with your expertise.
You are welcome.
Now,
okay, let's see the chat box. Which are the simulators that can be used to implement Lefka? We use MATLAB platform, but also you can use network simulator. You can use Python and also C++, C. There is no problem. They can be conducted in that platforms. Other than consumption energy for receiving messages, will latency not be issue in Maltop-Lefka, and it is not passing info directly to base station, but to nearby cluster, then it collectively sends info to base station. Yes. And also we are not interested in latency because we are just trying to transmit the packet in a safe manner to the base station. And also we are trying to prevent packet drop. Okay, and we are studying in network layer. So our first aim is trying to transmit packets to the base station. Operating system, as I said before, it is easy to generate in MATLAB. In each operating system, you can use that tools. No problem there. Which frequency range? In my publications, you can find the parameters that we used. For example, the packet length, the working frequencies, bandwidths. You can find them in my papers. Yes, in vast water monitoring, we can use wireless sensor networks. For example, when we put sensors to the water monitoring fields, we can collect information. Also, when we put a base station and operating center. Yes, it is. It can be done. How can vScience be used for healthcare management for COVID? For COVID, maybe if you can make a good sensor that detects COVID and faster than PCR tests, then it can be combined with wireless sensor networks, and the patients or people can be monitored by using wireless sensor networks. Also, it can be used for pollution control. There are a lot of applications of wireless sensor networks in environmental studies. When you Google, you can find a lot of papers related about that. Is there any more questions? Okay, for future cities, autonomous driving, yes, it can be used, but today we are talking about sensor networks also, but you know, for autonomous driving, there are a lot of sensors which are working in a car and in also the road, in the road. So it can be also combined with wireless sensor networks. There is no problem. Any more questions? Okay.
Thank you so
Is there
much.
any more questions? I think the questions were done, right? Okay. So
Thank you so much, sir.
you are welcome.
Now I'm inviting the Deputy Director. Now I would like to invite our respected Registrar, Dr. S.K. Garg, for presenting a certificate of honor for our respected Speaker of the Day.
Thank you so much for certificate and invitation. It was my pleasure.
I think there is some network issue from the registrar, sir. We are not able to hear him.
I hope
Yeah.
I'm audible.
Yeah, sir, you are audible. Please, sir.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Koran.
You are welcome.
You have given a very interesting presentation
Thank
to our
you.
students. I think they must be getting, it will be helpful for their career in future. So we would like to see you in India whenever you are free from this corona.
Yeah, before 5 years ago, I have been to India. I came to Delhi and Trivandrum for IEEE conference, but I will be happy to come again. I like India and Indian people, Indian culture, and you know, I have a lot of collaborators from India. We have joint studies, so it will be my pleasure. After the COVID, sure, I will try to come again.
Yeah, we will welcome you, and we will try to collaborate with you in research and further areas of academic interest. So
sure.
So thank you, Dr. Koran, very much.
You are always welcome.
Thank you, sir. Now, I'm inviting the Deputy Director of International Affairs Cell, Dr. Rajiv Shah, for proposing a vote of thanks. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. It's a privilege for me to propose vote of thanks on the occasion of expert lecture on wireless sensor network delivered by Dr. Korhan Cengiz, Assistant Professor, Department of Electrical Electronics Engineering, Trakya University, Turkey, organized by International Affairs Cell and Department of Electronics Engineering. I extend my heartfelt thanks to speaker Dr. Korhan Cengiz for sparing his valuable time and enlightening our students on the latest developments on wireless sensors network at global level. I would also like to extend special thanks and gratitude to Honorable Vice Chancellor Sir, Professor Dinesh Kumarji, who is always a source of inspiration for us, and worthy Registrar Sir, Dr. Sunil Kumar Garg, whose guidance is always needed by us. I congratulate all participants for being a part of this expert lecture who must have gained significantly. I thank International Affairs Cell and Department of Electronics Engineering of the university for their teamwork and organizing this expert lecture. And last but not the least, I thank all those who directly or indirectly were part of this expert lecture. Jai Hind, thank you. Thank you very much, Korhan sir. Thank you very much.
You are
so much,
welcome.
sir.
Thank you so much for invitation.
Now, I would like to request to everyone to please fill the feedback form which has been floated in the chat box and the respective WhatsApp group. Kindly provide your feedback as the form has been floated in the WhatsApp group and the chat box. Now, you all are requested to please switch on your videos to have a group photograph. I would like to request to everyone to please switch on your videos to have a group photograph. Now, I would like to thank everyone and each participant for being a part of this amazing session. And also I want to thank our eminent speaker of the day, Dr. Korhan Cengiz, and a very warm thank you to you, sir. Thank you so much.
You are welcome.
Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much,
Dr.
Koran,
Koran.
sir. Thank you.
You are welcome.
Thank you everyone for joining the session.
Dr. Koran, you will love to have food also here.
Yeah, you are right. Today also our lectures are going on. I will join my lecture right now in 10 minutes in Turkey. Final week for lectures, and then we will start to make final exams.
Okay.
Thank you so much for your invitation. Keep in touch,
Thank you.
Professor. We can.
We will
Yes,
be in touch.
we can.
We will
Yeah.
be in
Yes,
touch.
sure,
Thank
sure.
you.
For
Thank you, Dr.
collaborations,
Koran.
you are
And
welcome.
yeah, and I think it went a very successful session. In fact, we had the full packed house in our Zoom link, and then we need to share the YouTube link also. So more than 300
Sure.
students has also watched your session using the YouTube
Oh,
link.
it's very nice.
Yeah, I will definitely
It's
share
very
with you
nice.
the YouTube video also.
Okay.
Thank you. Means
Kindly
400
share with
participants.
me. Thank
Yeah.
you so much.
Yeah.
Yes, your invitation, and keep in touch for future events and
Definitely,
collaborations.
Yeah.
I am here for collaborations. Have a nice evening. Then may I go leave right now?
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Then keep in touch. Have a
Definitely,
nice evening and
Yeah.
weekend.
Thank you.
See you
Thank you.
later.
Have a nice evening, sir.
You are always